Good morning to all of you, and I hope you all had a wonderful celebration of the Feast of Tabernacles. Today is the 10th of October, 2023. And let's continue with the second book of Samuel, chapter 2. And we ended with the amazing story of this guy, Abner, who said to Asahel that he's going to kill him if he doesn't stop following him. And how bitter this war is when it is amongst brothers, because both Abner and Asahel are within the nation of Israel, are within God's people. And we're supposed to stand together and fight against the enemy. But of course, Abner made Ishbosheth the man of confusion, the man of lawlessness, the Antichrist figure. He has decided to make him king, and he didn't want to recognize David as being king over all the tribes. So the 10 tribes fell under as being king over all the tribes. So the 10 tribes fell under Ishbosheth, and the 2 tribes, Judah and Benjamin, fell under David. And now Asahel was jealous for the kingdom of God, who Yahuwah gave the kingdom to David. He made him to be anointed as king. So Asahel was jealous not for David, but for the kingdom of Yahuwah, like Yeshua is, like the people of Yahuwah is. We are supposed to be jealous, and we are supposed to be passionate to try and bring the restoration into place so that the kingdom can come and be restored, and Father Yahuwah can be Father again over all his children. We're not supposed to fight against each other within this restoration, but here Abner ends up killing Ahazel. Azael, and it's such a prophetic picture of how Yeshua was killed, the one that also came to drink the bitter cup to try and end between the 2 houses of Israel, but the war between the black and the white wolf inside of us, to drink that bitterness, take that upon himself, and for that he got a spear in his side, just like Azael. So let's continue with verse 24. Joab also and Abishai pursued after Abner. But remember, Asahel was actually, it said he was flight footed, remember. He was as light of foot as a wild roe, as a wild antelope in verse 18. So he ran way before his brothers Joab and Abishai. And Joab and Abishai also ran after Abner, and the sun went down when they were come to the hill of Ammah, that lies before Giah by the way of the wilderness of Gibeon. And the children of Benjamin gathered themselves together after Abner, and became one troop, and stood on the hill, and became one troop, and stood on the hill, on the top of a hill. So, talking about the children of Benjamin, remember, Judah and Benjamin were in the southern regions in Jerusalem, and David was currently king over them. So Benjamin was fighting for the honor of David. And Benjamin gathered themselves together and became one troop. And that is the ultimate plan, the ultimate desire, the ultimate agenda of God Himself, to make all the tribes gathered together in the hand of the Messiah, as they were scattered all over the earth, to be gathered again together as one troop, as one nation, and have one king over them. And the Bible says that one king must be the son of David. So Abner called to Joab and said, "Shall the sword devour forever?" So Abner is here representing the house of Israel. And Joab is representing the house of Judah. And in this case, Joab is representing David. He's representing the throne and the kingship of the son of Jesse. And out of which branch, out of which tree, the son of Jesse, comes the Messiah, prophesied to rule and reign as the root from the stem of Jesse. So Joab on the one side of the one kingdom of Israel, the divided kingdom, and Abner on the other side, and he says, "Shall the sword devour forever?" And unfortunately, we see this tweespalt, this split, and this envy and jealousy between the 2 houses forever, until the time that Messiah brings both Jew and lost sheep of Israel, called the Gentiles, back together in one, when both are grafted into the original olive tree with Abram, Isaac, and Jacob. When both come back to the covenants of the eternal promise that came out of the loins of Jacob, whose name was changed to Israel. But up to that point, unfortunately, up to the point where all 12 tribes are restored as one troop and gathered together as one troop under King David, until that time, unfortunately, yes, the sword will devour forever. And we see how Abner, even in his representation, not maybe even meaning to do that, not even understanding what he's doing, but can you think about the sword of the 10 tribes that has been scattered into the world? And out of the world came, all the pagan religions, eventually culminated by the Roman Catholic system in 324 through Kaiser Constantine. How the 10 tribes, how the world has bitterly devoured with the sword the followers of Judah. You can think about the Crusaders, the Christian Crusaders. You can think about the Crusaders, the Christian Crusaders killing the Jews in the Holy Land. You can think about the Inquisitions, of the Roman system, the Roman Catholic Church. How many decent, God-fearing believers called Christians in the history books, and how many Jews were killed by the Inquisition. How this horrible, devouring sword between the two houses has been prominent and evident throughout history. Not even touching the Holocaust, where the whole Nazi regime has received a lot of finance from not only the Roman Catholic Church, but also the Illuminati. So there's so much to be understood from all this. And with that, I'm not saying everything that that Hitler had ideas about was bad. There was quite a lot of interesting things regarding homosexuality. Also stopped, as well as the very hidden agenda that he had against the Jews from the synagogue of Satan. But unfortunately, the Jews from the synagogue of Satan weren't the ones that got the edge of the sword. It was the common Judean. It was the man, woman, and child from the tribe of Judah that got the edge of the sword from Abner, from the 10 tribes that became the world power. That was scattered into all the world, and all the leaders and stuff came from them. And how at the top, the world powers of both houses are working together. But it's the people of God, the children in both houses that are suffering, not these leaders. But here he is prophetically actually confirming that there will be a sword between these two houses. Don't you know that it will be bitterness in the latter end? Not only the latter end, as in fact, on Ishbosheth's side, on the man of confusion side, on the 10 tribes side, how he's going to fight against the 2 tribes, and how he sees and warns them it will only be a bitter end. At the end of our fight, it will be bitter. But he's also prophetically talking about the latter end, the last days, the end days, in the last period, how this horrible, massive battle, war between the two houses will only end up in absolute bitterness. But then, as so many prophets are prophesying, and how only the one who drank the bitter cup will be able to bring this bitterness to an end. As we see in Isaiah 11, verse 13, and the envy of Ephraim shall be taken away, and the enemies of Judah shall perish. Ephraim shall no longer envy Judah, and Judah shall no longer afflict Ephraim, because of who envy Judah. And Judah shall no longer afflict Ephraim, because of who? Because of the son of David. Prophetically talked about here in the prophet Isaiah. In that day, Isaiah 11, verse 10, there shall be a root of Jesse. And who's Jesse? The father of David, who shall stand for an ensign to the people. And to him shall the Gentiles seek, and his rest shall be glorious. And it will come to pass in that day that he will recover the remnant of his people, and he will make them one nation again. And then the envy and the bitterness between Judah and Ephraim will actually stop. So Abner said, shall the sword devour forever? Don't you know that it will only bring bitterness in the latter end? How long shall it be then? I bid the people return from following your brothers. So yes, Of course, there's going to be a following of brothers. You cannot bring of Messiah Yeshua or King David, of whom, Messiah, King David is the prophetic picture of Messiah. Then, unfortunately, there is going to be brother against brother. Doesn't Joshua himself say that he didn't come to bring peace, but to bring the sword between brother and brother and father and mother and all those things? So as long as Ishbosheth is on the throne, then the brothers are going to be fighting against the brothers. But it's very true. The brothers must come together and recognize the king that God ordained, not men, not Abner. Abner is a man who's looking after his own interests, like the rulers of the world today, who will put up the Antichrist, the beast, in the place of Messiah Yeshua for their own interest. And then there will be bitter battle between brothers and brothers. But ultimately, it is what God's plan is to, through the battles, the blind way and the idolatry will fall away. And both the blindness of the Jews and the idolatry of the Gentiles will fall away when they come back into covenant and they will see their king. They will finally be able to see him for who he is and not for the false one, the confusion that the false one brought in under the name of Ishbosheth. And Job said, as God lives, unless you have spoken, surely then in the morning the people had gone up, everyone from following his brother. So Job blew a trumpet, and all the people stood still and pursued after Israel no more, neither did they fight them any more. So this is the call that somebody needs to make. Don't we understand that at the blast of the shofar, when the shofar blasts and Messiah rules and reigns, then the sword and the envy and the vexing and the, what was that verse in affliction, Isaiah 11, affliction, Isaiah 11, then Judah will no longer afflict Ephraim. So that verse prophetically talks about what needs to come to an end when the shofar blast. So Joab blew the trumpet, or the shofar in the Hebrew, and the people stood still and they stopped envying and vexing and afflicting and battling with their own brothers. And Abner and his men walked all that night through the plain, and passed over Jordan, and went through all Bithron, and they came to Mahanaim. And Joab returned from following Abner, and when he had gathered all the people together, there lacked of David's servants men 19 men and Asahel. So it's 20 men altogether. 19 of David's men was killed on the battlefield, and Asahel was gone. But the servants of David had smitten of Benjamin and of Abner's men, so that 303 men died. Abner's side has passed away in the battlefield. Interesting, it's a full circle. And they took up Asahel and buried him in the sepulchre of his father, which was in Bethlehem. And Joab and his men went all night, and they came to Hebron at break of day. So Asahel, the one who's like El, the one who was zealous and passionate for King David, the one that was passionate for the kingdom of David, the kingdom of Yahuwah to be restored and to be one nation with all the tribes, not fighting against each other, but with each other. And he received a spear in his side for that. He was buried in Bethlehem. How amazing is this? How Yeshua was born in Bethlehem. Yeshua, the one who's like El, the one who's passionate for the restoration of the 12 tribes, the one who got a spear in his side for that, coming from Bethlehem, the house of bread. Coming from Bethlehem, the house of bread. Let us fall away with chapter 3. Now there was a long war between the house of Saul and the house of David. But David waxed stronger and stronger, and the house of Saul waxed weaker and weaker. So we can remember this in the in the latter day battles as well. The kingdom of the enemy, although they are strong, Saul was very strong. He was so mighty and big and huge and strong. But slowly but surely, because of his disobedience to Yahuwah, and him following the idol of his heart, following his own selfish nature that became his own God, breaking all the covenants and all the laws of God, how that kingdom will grow only weaker and weaker. It cannot stand. And although it seems that the kingdom of God on this earth is weak because we are, and the persecution is from all sides, the kingdom of God grows stronger and stronger. And unto David were sons born in Hebron, and his firstborn was Amnon of Ahinoam the Jezreelite, and his second was Gilead of Abigail. Oh, remember the beautiful Abigail? My father is my joy. The wife of Nabal, the foolish one who got a heart attack, the Carmelite. And his third son was Absalom, the son of Maacah, the daughter of Talmai, king of Geshur. So his first three children was actually, let's see here, Amnon, and then Gilead, and then Absalom. So Absalom was the third born. And later on, we'll see in this battle for the throne of David, how they said Amnon was the firstborn. He's supposed to inherit the throne. He's supposed to be the prince who becomes the throne. He's supposed to be the prince who becomes the king in the place of David. But Amnon was not the one chosen by Yahuwah. We actually see this beautiful story of the prostitute and how the firstborn son had to die, and how this is teaching us what to pray for on Yom Kippur. The Psalm 51 that was written by David when he had dealings with a prostitute, a woman that was married. She was supposed to keep to her marriage vows, but she didn't. That's so reminiscent of what Israel did, supposed to keep to the marriage covenant with Yahuwah, but we didn't. And we became the prostitute, and out of that came only the firstborn son that died. But out of that, when all is restored and forgiven, and Yom Kippur, Psalm 51 is prayed and meant, and then followed through with the rest of our lives. Read Psalm 51. It's absolutely amazing. Then out of that marriage, out of that restoration, the bride and the bridegroom that are now washed clean, wash me with hyssop and I will be clean. Now washed clean, and the marriage can come again. And out of that comes King Solomon. Solomon, the man of peace, that ruled and reigned only with peace. So it's beautiful how all this is prophesied. But unfortunately, although the kingdom of Saul is waxing cold, and the enemies from without, from the outside, who was attacking David, is growing weaker and weaker, and eventually David will be crowned king over the other 10 tribes as well. But unfortunately, here Absalom is born, and now the enemy from within, my own brother, my own son, who lifts up his heel against me. The Antichrist figure that is not only trying from the outside, but also putting his energy and his, I don't want to call them spies, his pinions, his minions, his chess pieces. He also puts them inside the very tribe of Judah, like we saw so many times in the book of Judges and Joshua, remember? And out of Absalom comes a whole new Antichrist figure. And Absalom was the son of Maacah, the daughter of Talmai. And if you do research on Talmai, Numbers 13 verse 22 and Joshua 15 verse 14, you'll see that Talmai was the son of, I just want to find the man's name, Anak, the king of Anak. He had 3 sons, and they were called Ahiman, Sheshahi, and Talmai. So these 3 sons were the children of Anak, and Joshua fought against them, and Moses fought against them. And you remember the Anakim were the Nephilim seed, and they were these huge giants in Canaan. So we can see how the spirit of the Anakim, the spirit son Talmai, and then the daughter Maacah, the daughter of Talmai, the king, how the spirit of the Anakim, the fallen angel Nephilim seed that was found inside Absalom. And as we do more research, you'll find actually that this specific Talmai, although he was king of, although his name is the same as the son of the Anak in Numbers 13 verse 22, this must have been another Talmai actually, because he says king of Geshur. And this Talmai was the son of the king of Geshur. And he was actually from the tribe of Judah. Again, how this interlinks with one another. 1 Chronicles 9:4. Utahi, the son of Amihud, the son of Omri, the son of Imri, the son of Bani, of the children of Peretz, the son of Judah. So, Talmai, so Talmai in the Bible definitely has the historical connection of the Anakim, which is the seed of the serpent. But this Talmai is not from the Anakim, he is from the tribe of Judah. But the spirit of the Anakim has ended up in his grandson Absalom through his daughter Ma'akah. And Ma'akah in the Hebrew, that name in the Hebrew means depression. It's got to do with the root word ma'ak, which is to press or to pierce or to bruise or to struck, to be pressed down, to be bruised, to be made depressed. So how Absalom, with this kind of seed, these kind of names of Talmai, of the Anakim, and of Ma'akah, his mother, nothing King Saul did to David hurt him so badly as what Absalom did. We're going to go through all that still in the future. And the fourth son was Adoniah, the son of Haggith. And then his fifth son was Shephatiah, the son of Abital. And the sixth, Ephraim by Echlah, David's wife. These were born to David in Hebron. So David already had 6 wives. And it came to pass, while there was war between the house of Saul and the house of David, that Abner made himself strong for the house of Saul. So remember Ishbosheth, chapter 2, verse 10. Ishbosheth, one of Saul's sons, was 40 years old when he began to reign over Israel, and he reigned for 2 years. But the house of Judah followed David. So Ishbosheth was from the house of Saul, and Abner was his general. He was his minister, whatever, strong in the kingdom of Ishbosheth, the son of Saul, also called the house of Saul. In verse 6. And Saul had a concubine whose name was Rizpah, the daughter of Ahiah. And Ishbosheth said to Abner, Wherefore have you gone in unto my father's concubine? So Ishbosheth was a little bit angry. Why did you go and sleep with my father's concubine? His other sort of wife. Then was Abner very angry for the words of Ishbosheth and said, Am I a dog's head, which against Judah did show kindness this day unto the house of Saul your father, and to his brothers, and to his friends? Have not I delivered you into the hand of David? I have not delivered you into the hand of David. And I've been loyal to you in your father's house. And now you charge me today with a fault concerning you and your father's house. And now you charge me today with a fault concerning this woman? What is this woman to you? She's nothing to you. Now you want to criticize me for this? You want to be angry for me at, enjoying myself? I did all of this for you. I'm strong. I'm your governor. I'm your president. You are putting me strong in the kingdom of Saul. And I've stood strong for you against the house of Judah. And I didn't deliver you into David's hands, because then David would have made me strong in his army. And now you want to criticize me? So do God to Abner, and more also, except as Yahuwah have sworn to David, even so I do to him, to translate the kingdom from the house of Saul, and to set up the throne of David over Israel and over Judah, from Dan even to Beersheba. So Abner is threatening. It has called out the kingdom, all the kingdom, Israel and Judah, to be under David. So Ishbosheth could not answer Abner a word because he feared him. So Ishbosheth now realized he had to do what his puppet master was telling him. Ishbosheth didn't even go into battle. He wasn't like Jonathan. He wasn't like the other sons of Saul. He was a loser. He was a pathetic, palace dweller, typical of the kings who sit in their palaces while the people must go out and do the fighting. He wasn't a man of strength. He wasn't a leader. So Abner was a man of strength. Abner was the leader, and Abner made Ishbosheth king. Remember, in the previous chapter, Abner, the son of Ner, and the servants of Ishbosheth went then out, and Abner made Ishbosheth king. So Ishbosheth was actually just like the rulers of today, or just puppets in the real generals that are pulling their strings. So Abner is warning him, any moment now, the will of God can be done for David to be king over all of Israel, and then you will be delivered up into the hands of David, and you'll be killed. And this made Ishbosheth fear Abner. And Abner sent messengers to David on his behalf and said, "Whose is this land? Who does this land belong to?" And he said also, "Make a league with me, and behold, my hand shall be with you, to bring all of Israel unto you." Interesting how this Abner, who was so against David, who even killed Asahel, what was his name now? Let me just go back. Asahel, yes, the one who's like El, and who was fighting to keep the memory of Saul alive. How is now, just because of a concubine, just because of criticism for his having relations with this woman, how this offended him so much that he realized, nah, I'm not going to stay with Ishbosheth, I'm going to go back to David. And when Abner goes to David, Abner, as the ruler and as the governor, can then bring all of the 10 tribes of Israel to David as well, because they were following him, not really Ishbosheth. So he, as the enemy, now wants to become a friend. And he said, "David, well, I will make a league with you, but one thing I require of you, and that is, you will not see my face, except you first bring Michal, Saul's daughter, when you come to see my face." All right, remember Michal was actually David's first wife. So David still had a soft spot in his heart for Michal. I wonder why. Do you remember that David killed Goliath, and the promise he got was that the king will give him his daughter? Do you remember that besides that promise that Saul didn't keep, he still told David to go fetch him, 100 foreskins from the Philistines in 1 Samuel 18? And then David came back and he actually gave him 200 foreskins of the Philistines. And then Saul had to give him Michal, his daughter, to be his wife. And 1 Samuel 18, Michal loved David. And as Saul started persecuting David, Michal actually told him about what Saul was planning. And she put an idol in the place of David in his bed. And she let David down through a window. And she and father, because she loved David. She was for a time a beautiful picture of the bride. But unfortunately, Michal was given away to somebody else. Remember, Saul gave her to Palti, the son of Laish, in 1 Samuel 25. But now David wants his first wife back, his first love. And he is forcing Abner and later on sending messengers to Ishbosheth to say, "I want my wife back." 2 Samuel 3 verse 14. "Give me my wife, Michal, because I espoused her for 100 foreskins of the Philistines." But this woman, who was supposed to be such a beautiful picture of the bride, did end up in 2 Samuel 6 to laugh and despise David because of his joy when the Ark of the Covenant came back into the city of David, remember? And the Ark of the Covenant came back into the city of David, remember? How David was leaping and dancing, and he took off his outer garments, and she was despising him. She was feeling ashamed on his behalf. She didn't like the way in which he was behaving. But now, back to 1 Samuel chapter 3, David says, "I want Michal. So I'll make a league with you. I'll allow you to come into my army and bring the 10 tribes so we can become one nation. And I'll forgive your sins. You'll become my general, but I don't want to see your face until you bring me Michal." And David sent messengers to Ishbosheth and said, "Give me my wife Michal." And Ishbosheth sent and took her from her husband, even from Paltiel, the son of Laish. So, she was rightfully and legally, she was the wife of David. She was his first wife. He was her first husband. Saul gave her as a virgin to David. He earned her. He did what Saul said, if a man kills Goliath, he'll marry my daughter. And David did that. Legally, emotionally, personally, covenantally. She belonged to David. But she was given to Paltiel. And she was living with Paltiel for all these, how many years that David was persecuted by Saul. According to a study, it's about 20 years. So she was the wife of Paltiel, the son of Laish, for 20 years. And look what happens now, and this is so sad. Verse 16, her husband Paltiel went with her along, weeping behind her to Bahurim. And then Abner eventually said to Paltiel, "Go, return to your house." Oh, shame. How sad is this? Paltiel had her for a while, and now he's losing her, and he's weeping like a baby. He's following her like a little puppy dog. And eventually Abner says, "No, it's enough now, man. Come on, go home." Oh, this is so sad. And the name of this guy is Paltiel, and it means Patal Al, to escape by Al, or to be delivered by Al, the deliverance or the escaping of Yahuwah. And Paltiel went and wept behind her all the way to Bahurim, all the way to Bahurim, a place that is your chosen from your young time. Bakur, it's got to do with the firstborn, to be selected, chosen from your birth. So how beautiful is this, that this man whose name is the deliverance of Al, chosen from the youth. That sounds like we as the people of God, the one who opens the womb, will be dedicated to Yahuwah. Like Samuel was opening the womb of Hannah and she dedicated him to Yahuwah. And the Torah said all the firstborn of the men, of the children of Israel, as of course of the animals, must be brought to the temple to be dedicated to Yahuwah. And Abner had communication with the elders of Israel and said, "You sought for David in times past to be king over you. Now then do it, for Yahuwah have spoken unto David and said, by the hand of my servant David, I will save Yeshua, my people Israel, out of the hands of the Philistines and out of the hands of all their enemies." We are also thinking about the Palestines or the Philistines of today, how they, of course, are financed and ruled by the synagogue of Satan. Those people playing both sides. But through the Son of David, in the Gospels, when Gabriel speaks to Mary, Gabriel says to Mary and to Joseph, "You will call his name Yeshua because he will save his people Israel." And by the Son of David, Yeshua, the salvation of the people of Israel out of the hands of the Philistines. Not only the Philistines of today, they're up in that geographical location. As we know, the war that started over this weekend while we were celebrating the 8th day, Torah Simchat, the last day of the Feast of Tabernacles. Then the Amalekite type of hyena cowardly attacked on the Sabbath day, on the high Sabbath day, attacked Israel. But we know also how that has been orchestrated by the very same inside chess pieces in the house of Judah. But that's another long story. But so out of the hand of the Philistines, side chess pieces in the house of Judah. But that's another long story. But so out of the hand of the Philistines, not only out of their hands, will God, through David, save his people, but out of the hand of all their enemies, even the enemies within, even the Absalom within the very family of David. And Abner spoke into the ears of Benjamin, and Abner went also to speak in the ears of David in Hebron, all that seemed good to Israel, and that seemed good to the whole house of Benjamin. So Abner came to David to Hebron, and 20 men with him. And David made Abner and the men that were with him a feast. All right, so 20 men comes with Abner. And if we go back to the previous part, we read chapter 2, verse 30. 20 of David's men were killed in the battle with Abner. So Abner is bringing 20 men back, I suppose, in the place of them. Definitely somewhere coming soon, we will read how the brothers of Asahel did take their revenge on Abner for killing their brother. But here, Abner brings 20 men to try and make up for the 20 that was killed, but he's also bringing all his efforts to restore the two houses, bringing all the children of Israel back to David as well. So the one that was at one stage promoting the division of the houses has now turned and wants to also restore the houses. So we look little bit more deeply into this. Abner, the enemy, brings Israel back to Judah, to the family, to form one kingdom again. But we also know how the false system works through those that sometimes seems to be your friend.